Okay, so now we are being recorded. So good evening, everyone. Again, thank you all for being here tonight with us. Thank you, Feda, for having the time for being here with us. This is a very special, as I was saying, this is a very special session of our GENAM Book Club. After almost 2 years of meetings, we had last year's meetings with discussions about literature mainly, literature works on diseases, illnesses, on the pandemic, on various subjects related to health and healthcare. This year we had our meetings, our discussions, our reflections about visual arts, and we are so here tonight to 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 end this second year of the book club with this special, super special guest, Feda Shtia, who's here with us tonight. She's speaking from Scotland. I don't know if everyone is aware of that. So she's 3 hours ahead of us tonight, so it's kind of late there for her, not for us, but she kindly agreed to keep our time, our book club normal customary time. And we thank Feda so much for being here tonight. As a suggestion and an introduction of our publisher, Leonardo Garzaro, who's here with us tonight, because Leonardo met Feda in a book fair. I never remember the name of the city in which was the book fair. Which city was that in the Middle East?
In Sharjah.
Sharjah. Okay. So Leonardo met Feda in this fair in late November, and he was very interested about her works, and so he kindly suggested us to having Feda here with us to talk with us, to have this dialogue with us about her work as a writer, her work as a publisher. She's also a CEO and founder of a publishing um, house in Scotland. She can speak about that to us tonight too. And she just wrote, she just published a book on the pandemic, on the consequences, on the experience of living in the pandemic and living in a quarantine during the pandemic. And this book is called 418. This is the book that we have here behind me. Feda is an Arabic writer. She writes in Arabic, but also in English. I'm going to read some of the data of her biography that she kindly sent us here for you to know her a little bit more. So she these data that she asked me to read to you is that she is an Arabic writer. She's a publisher and entrepreneur. She is CEO of the Sunono Publishing, and she's a winner of the Sadia Translation Grant 2020. Okay, if I speak the words in Arabic wrong, I, I just apologize for that. Feda has a background in education in international schools and universities. She wrote a series of progressive reading books for non-Arabs within the Arabic for Everyone project. She led lots of training programs for teachers and parents in the UAE. She also led and co-led big events for live gamification in Dubai and Sadia, organized by Ministry of Education and the Supreme Council of Family Affairs, Sadia. She studied Arabic language and literature at the University of Jordan, and completed a postgraduate diploma from St. Joseph University in Beirut. She has diverse hobbies, including, then this is so amazing, motorcycle riding, scuba diving, sewing, and gardening. You see, she's an amazing woman. She currently lives in Scotland with her Scottish husband, and they have a 5-year-old son. So this is Feda. Tonight, Feda is here, and Leonardo thought about this meeting with us because, as you all know, we also, GENAM, the book club, is also publishing a book on the pandemic, the Pandemos. The book is almost ready, right, Leonardo? Almost ready. And so Leonardo thought it would be very nice if we could share the experience of writing about the pandemic with a writer that comes from a background so different from ours. So I think this exchange, and he thought that this exchange would be great. So Feda is here tonight to talk to us, to speak to us, to tell us about all these subjects. And I can make a suggestion about the subjects that she can speak to us. And she's going to be speaking to make a small talk of 30-40 minutes. And then we are open to questions to she can answer to our questions too. People are so interested, Feda, that the people that cannot be here tonight sent me some questions already for you. So they are so
My
interested.
gosh,
Yeah,
I have to be worried now.
No, not at all. So, yeah, I think it would be very nice if you could tell us, first of all, about your path towards literature, your path towards books and readings and writing. About your work as a publisher, I think it's super nice to know. It would be very, very good for us to know about this this side of your professional life, and also about 408. How was the conception of this book? What is this book about? We had the opportunity of reading a small sample of the book that you kindly sent us today, right? So if you can talk to us about this. So Feda, super welcome to the book club. We are super happy to having you here.
Thank you very much. I'm really honored to be part of this group, and I feel shy that I cannot speak Portuguese, and I am so thankful that everybody is willing to have me on board and accepting the fact that we all, or most of us, are using a middle language to communicate. So I'm really thankful. I'll start from where I came from and how I ended up writing and then writing this novel about pandemic, or inspired by the pandemic situation. I was born in UAE. I'm originally from Jordan and Palestine, and when I went to university in Jordan, and I studied Arabic literature. And after graduating, went back to the UAE, and I was teaching as an Arabic teacher. And because UAE and maybe the very popular city is Dubai, everybody maybe heard about Dubai. So UAE stands for United Arab Emirates. And so because of the nature of the country, you meet a lot of people from different places all over the world. And for me, being an Arabic teacher, I was in a great position because I was teaching in international schools, and I found myself teaching Arabic as second language, and I specialized in that. And that journey brought this diversity into teaching Arabic as second language? And how would you make it really interesting for someone who's learning Arabic for the first time and they are 10 years old and they just landed in Dubai and they have to learn the letters and they need to remember all the vocabularies? And I found it so tricky because there's wonderful resources in English, there's wonderful ways to teach language in Arabic for Arabs, but there were very limited choices for children, especially older children, to make the language learning interesting to them. And at that time, I was a head of department in different international schools, mainly British schools, and I thought, okay, I would love to make this interesting. I need to start writing stories, because if you learn the language from a scene, from characters, they meet each other, they do things together, they are in a real life situation, it's an easy way to link things. And this is where the beginning was for me to use my literature side that I grew in the university and from my family, because my mother was an Arabic teacher, my father was a translator. So I think it's the mix was there without knowing that. I never knew I will end up doing what I'm doing now. So, okay, I think the right material was there, and I found myself as a teacher, and I felt responsible, and it was this love and joy that you have with children when they, like, learn something. So I started writing stories, and with building curriculums and progressive reading books, and I thought, you know what, I really need to focus on that. So in 2014, I quit teaching and I started writing this project. And because I was very such a beginner in this world of publishing and how books works, and you have to make books multiply of 8 pages because they are spread, and from the very basic information of that I had to learn. And why we can't have 7 pages? And it's just like, this is how rough I was in this industry. So I started learning that by meeting publishers, and I was really lucky that I met publishers like in Pearson and Collins, and I did not know the real value of that at that time, and I was still thinking, no, I don't want to make my project a textbook. I want it to be individual stories. But of course, you don't know the cost, the hassle in illustrating all of these books. And then I wrote 60 stories, and the project was part of 150 stories in total. And so it was huge, and it's still in progress. So that was my first project, which is Arabic for Everyone. I will show you a few samples from these books. And it's just lovely. It made me feel like, oh, I can do something and teach children like lovely things. And make it like conversation. I've learned a lot from this, and so I kept everything, illustrated it, but never published that. And I thought, I went through this path that authors go through: rejection. I think if you want to become an author, your middle name need to become rejection, because one of the main things you deal with is accepting to be rejected as like your manuscript, as your project, your idea, finding an agent, and the whole journey of that. And so I did not give up with that project, but I knew I'm not ready for it without a publisher. So I put that on the shelf, and it's during that time, I moved to Scotland. The dynamic of the business for my family changed, and because I'm married to a Scotsman, and this is why Scotland was the choice. And then I thought, come on, Feda, you have to take off your teacher hat. You need to think more abroad. You wanted this project. It was perfect for where you were living. You had all the the resources, the connection with the schools, you were in the right place for it. You have to find another project if you want to carry on with this writing thing. Try to write another story, write something for children. I was still with my teacher hat, but like changing the color of the hat still. I want something for children. I want to pass something. So I wrote bedtime stories. And these bedtime stories were inspired by my son. He was 2 years old when we moved to Scotland. And I never in my life saw a son stays up until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the evening. And you have to convince this little boy that it is bedtime. It's bright outside, but it is bedtime and you have to go to bed. So I think that we're like, it's that moment, what to do? I need just to do something interesting and make it related to him. So I created this character called it Deep Deep, which is, we made a prototype of it here, just to you, just make it interesting. So that was Deep Deep.
Oh,
and
it's so lovely.
yeah, hopefully, eventually within a few years, we'll make it available for sale. So I wrote stories inspired by Scotland, the wonderful nature, the pheasant, all these beautiful animals that are around and available for everybody to see and witness, and the countryside, because that's where we live. So I wrote these stories, and then I heard about an initiative in Sharjah, started by Sheikh Aboudur al-Qasimi. I don't know if you guys know about Sheikh Aboudur al-Qasimi. I will tell you a little bit about her throughout this journey, because it's wonderful what an amazing, powerful woman who's in a place that she can make changes, what she can achieve. It's just outstanding. And I'm not here just to flatter, because she's who she is. It's because what was the impact of her journey on my journey, which means a lot to me. So she started an initiative called 1001 Titles. And that initiative was aimed to sponsor authors. So if you're an author and you apply for this initiative, they will read your manuscript according to whatever genre you applied for. They will evaluate it and they will give you an approval to sponsor you. They sponsor you with a certain amount of money. It's a fixed number, so nobody is fighting over something. So that's a fixed amount of money, helps you to start, But the main thing for me, the learning journey of what does it mean to publish a book? It's you get ISBN number, you get the book illustrated, you get the book designed to look like a book at the end, not just words and clip art images. So that initiative gave me two main supports to become an author or feel I can be an author. First, that for the first time, I didn't get rejection. I got a tick. I was accepted. I was like, what? Somebody thinks that I can write? It was like that moment. So that first huge tick for me. The second big thing was learning the whole process, because for you, once you get the initial acceptance, you have to go through steps. As I mentioned, you learn that you need a National Media Council approval, you need this, you need that. So I went through all of that. I've worked with illustrator, I worked with a designer. I never knew there's a difference between a designer and illustrator, and then an editor and copy editor, and all of these terms and different roles to give birth to a book and make it available and it's a paperback format, especially for children. Like children, it's a big process, and it's a huge responsibility. So in 2018, I self-published these books, and I felt that thrill, you know, I can do that. And I started meeting with publishers, meeting with other authors. That initiative 1001, that part of Sheikh Abdur al-Qasimi organizations or initiatives, it doesn't just stop there where you got your book published or you got accepted or you got this token of supporting you to finance your book. Every single event they have for putting illustrators with publishers, with authors, creating free workshops online or to attend. All of this took me from one step to another, from one step to another. And I felt I am growing with this. I am growing my confidence, and I feel the recognition. So in 2020, this was the second magical moment for me. I received an invitation from 1001, and they were under another umbrella called, also by Sheikh Abdur al-Qasimi. It's called ثقافة بلا حدود, knowledge without borders. I need to think in Arabic sometimes to remember. So these two umbrellas sponsored 10 authors, and they were a mixture of children's authors, a professional novelist, poem, I think they were a poem author, writers, and then they were, what do you call it, non-fiction books, these books that teach you how to have a better life, and I forgot the terms in English. So they were a mixture of type of authors, and I was one of these 10. Okay, can you imagine, guys, what does that mean to me? It's like, what again? So that was an amazing moment. And that was February 2020, like the edge of the pandemic. And the invitation was for writers' retreat. And it was the first writers' retreat in an Arabic country. And I don't know if there's any other writers' retreat happened except for that one in Arabic countries in that format. And we were in this desert resort, outstanding from every way you look at it. You're in the desert, away from the city, away from all the pollution, away from all the hassle of life, and this luxurious resort. You fit very well, and you have two very popular, prestigious novelists, Wasin al-A'raj and Najwa bin Shatwan. These were the two novelists who were teaching us the tricks and how to master the game. So I was there for 10 days, and I started, you know, you get these challenges, and you're a children author, so you can just only write for children, and then you get some of a feeling that you kind of in a smaller position in comparison to authors who write novels and things like that. So that grows into you, whether it's real or not, whether it's just in your head. You have this moment of, but I can't write for adults. I think I can. So start these exercises, and I find some encouragement. There were amazing novelists there who were so supportive, that encouraged me to just push me outside my comfort zone and try to write more than just a short story. How about a chapter book? Can you extend that there? And you know, all of these 10 days of intense conversations and talking about how can you grow as an author. And you hear other authors, they write these wonderful pieces in just half an hour or 10 minutes exercise, and then they create these amazing characters, and you go, wow. And I want to do that. I want to learn how to do this. So I think that was the moment when I thought, I can push myself a little bit more. I can try to do something a little bit different. Maybe my teacher hat can sit on the desk for a little bit, and I can think something different. But after this rosy life full of luxurious time, I go back to Scotland. 1 week or 10 days after I arrived, bang, lockdown came. So I found myself for 4 months looked down at our home, doing nothing, scared, terrified, didn't know what will happen when Tesco, it's a supermarket for food, deliver the food for us. We leave the food for 48 hours, not touching it because we're scared there's something contaminated in it. So from that, the ultimate achievement for me as an author, considering myself that I can even do better, to lockdown, isolated, away from your culture, from your home, from everything, and February in United Arab Emirates is like springtime. You come back February in Scotland, you screwed. It's cold, it's wet, it's just, although we are living in a stunning, stunning, stunning place, it just nothing beats nature in a good day, but still with pandemic and everything. So I think that made me stop and say, come on, Feda, you have to do something now. You've really been writing these books, getting it self-published. I self-published the bedtime stories, and then I need to do something. I need to get something together. And I sat and I started putting all these books that I've been working on since 2014 together in the right format. So I got the first 14 books of this series, which is for teaching Arabic as second language, got that ready, at least crazy 4 months. And then I wrote my very first chapter book, which is this. This was like the crown jewel, as they say, for me, because it's a stunning book for middle grade. You know, if you can see some of the pictures. I started with this. It was 1,000 words, 1,500 words when I was in the writer's retreat, and I was encouraged to make it grow into a chapter book. And I wrote the beginning of it. I wrote it when I was in Jordan, and I was waiting for my spouse visa to be sorted, waiting to join my husband and son in Scotland. So I was on a semi-lockdown, waiting for my visa in Jordan, but in 2019. But then I was not thinking at all that I can write more than 1,000, 2,000 words. So during the lockdown, and then the spring came, and the spring was gorgeous. And it was our first year in this property, and I started watching nature. I got ideas, and I wrote these ideas in this book. And I've decided it's time to launch my business and be strong enough to establish a proper publishing house. So I had the registration for the company, but I didn't know what I'm gonna do with it. But I remember that moment. I was in this tiny office in my previous home in Scotland before we moved to this one. And I was having all my paper on the ground, and I've heard these birds tweeting. And the bird was the swallow bird, which is Sunono in Arabic. I'll show you the logo to know how clear that will be. So this is Sunono, the swallow bird. And I was like looking at this bird feeding his little babies and go back and forth. And it was the summertime when they come back to their nest. They called house martins here. So that's type of the swallow. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to call the publishing house Sunono because it does represent me. I am like this migrating bird. It always go back home. It travels around the world. It's an international bird. And I am going to establish this publishing house for myself to say we travel through stories and I can reach out to the world about my culture, my beliefs, things I love through stories. And I write them in Arabic and then translate them into English. And this is how I can reach the wider audience I can. And this is where that came. And I applied. See, this is the magic of Sharjah, right? This is the magic of Sharjah. So for me, a 1001 initiative in Sharjah helped me to try self-published, and I felt it was successful. For me, on my own personal level, it was successful, regardless how successful it was. It was successful, yes, and real life, but within my own zone. In the industry of publishing, the word successful is how many books did you sell? Are you bestseller? And how much money do you make? So it is harsh. It's harsh industry, but you need to find your own successful feeling, you know, where you feel you really achieved and you tick your own box with a big fat tick and be confident about it. So so the 1001, and then after 1001, I've got the writer's retreat invitation. And after that, I said, okay, I'm gonna go bold this time. I am gonna apply for the publishers conference. And I applied. We put together a stunning you know, catalog and things like that. And we worked really hard on it. And I think because Sharjah want to support independent publishers, independent business, new initiative, woman, you know, it's all, so it worked into my favor. I was that lucky girl. And I took the chance and I traveled in 2020 for the only book fair that happened in real life in the world was the Sharjah Book Fair. So you can imagine, for me, it was like, I'm going to the moon. It was like, I am doing something different here. So I went to the Sharjah Book Fair, to the conference, shaking, right? I am gonna meet the big boys there. I am gonna say I'm a publisher and I'm gonna do it. And I pitched this book, the number 25, and I thought, cool, I can do sales here. There is more into me, you know, I'm not just a teacher and the shy author and somebody who's trying publishing. I can do things. So the book was sold to Macedonian and Mozambique and a few other African languages. I can't remember now. So it was a big achievement for me. You know, it felt like, wow, I did well. I managed to do something. I had a tick, and it's a big fat tick for me. I don't care how many books I should sell to get recognized by these fancy publishers, but for me, it was a big fat tick. So that happened, and I exhibited. You know, I was there in a booth, standing there, pitching my books, talking about Sunono, talking about the concept, and the people were amazing. The people were listening. You know, they will listen and they will buy the book and will support you. And there were children who drags their parents' hand and say, I want that book, I want that book. And then I signed books for kids, and it was beautiful. It was like a trophy for me, especially during that difficult time and the pandemic. And during all that time, that lady that I admire, Sheikh Budur al-Qasimi, who started all these initiatives, who I miss saying in 2019, Sharjah was recognized as the book capital of the world, the international book capital. I hope I'm translating the terms right in English. So that was in 2019. And in 2021, Sheikh Budur al-Qasimi became the president for the International Publishers Association. This is a huge achievement. Imagine she is the first Arab woman to be the president for IPA. And not only that, she's the second woman since the start of the whole thing, which I found out today, that IPA, I wrote the number, so I read it right, was established on 1896. So all this period of time, only 2 women being president, and one of them is from Sharjah, an Arabic woman who maybe people don't even hear about Sharjah, you know what I mean? So it's just a huge achievement. And how this one woman's journey reflects on other women's journey. So this is how I see my journey parallel to her achievement. So how much I benefit from being in that place of the world, and this trip to Scotland, which also had an impact on me, of course. Different culture, different environment, different way to look at things, not always agree with it, not always admiring it, but just finding yourself in a situation where you are here now. So in 2021 was a tougher year. I think because of all that achievement and the buzz of I did that, and I went to the book fair, and I managed to launch Sunono, and I'm taking these big fat texts of my own book. 2021, okay, now what? Corona is still there. It didn't go away. Money is getting less and less. We're achieving, but we're not really making enough money to catch up with all the damage. And okay, how much can you survive as a very small independent business and in a very niche market for the UK? And the market I'm targeting, I have to be in schools to be able to reach out for people and know about me. Schools are closed, so that's gone. I want to meet people so people know my story. Maybe they will like me. Maybe they will try to look at my books. Maybe they will like the concept, so they will give it a chance to read the book. You need to be known so they can find out more about you and see if you're interesting or not. So I did not have any access to that. My only way to survive was taking a chance to go to any available on real ground book fair and any event. And the price was really hefty, because one of the chances I took was traveling to the United Arab Emirates, to Dubai, to attend the Emirates Literature Festival, which was for a week or less. And there were these names of authors who are attending. People, I would die to go and meet them, you know. And so I took the chance, January 2021, took my son with me, and I went to Dubai. I said, I'm going to attend this. I'm going to have a little bit of holiday with my son, and then go back to UK for the lockdown, because we were like knowing lockdown is gonna happen sooner or later, but nobody expected to happen the way it happened. To cut the story short, I go to Dubai for that event. Most of the authors couldn't make it. It all went semi-virtually, which was disappointing. And I got stuck in Dubai for 4 months. 4 months with my son in Dubai drained us completely. All our finance went to that. I had a great time with my son. Didn't do work, didn't do any business meeting, I didn't do any writing. So it was tough. And then we were stuck for 4 months because we didn't know what to do. Is it gonna open the border? Is Dubai gonna be on green list, amber list, this traffic light system? So we kept saying, okay, let's extend. At the end, we couldn't extend anymore. We need to go back home. And so I had to avoid being in a hotel with my son for 10 days. So we went to Istanbul to do this journey. And the reason why I'm telling these details is to tell how at the end I came up with, I had to write this, I had to write it. After all of that, I had to write this. So we went to Istanbul. When we went to Istanbul, it was in green list. We arrived 2 days, it went into amber list, which meant, again, we had to do a 10 days self-isolation at home. So we kind of skipped a little bit the lockdown in the hotel, but we still had to do more restrictions and things like that. So went to Scotland on April 2021. This is after all the lockdown we've done in Dubai and Istanbul, and then arrived at our home. In May, I had to travel again for Abu Dhabi Book Fair and Sharjah Reading Festival, Children's Reading Festival, which are a huge thing for me. I needed to be there. And I knew, I only spent 10, 15 days at home after all of this. And some of them were self-isolation. And I knew I'm going to the UAE. UAE is in a red list. What am I doing? I'm gonna be locked in a hotel. The thing I tried to avoid the last 4 months, not to be locked in a hotel, I gonna do it. And I know I am doing it. And every day I'm praying, God, please, amber list. I don't want green list, which maybe a miracle will happen and they will go on amber list. You never know what will happen. So kept saying that to myself, went for 10 days for the book fair. And then I had to pay 10 days locked in hotel in Edinburgh because it was on red list. And my brain could not take it. I could not take more lockdown and more isolation. And I think with these 10 days, I went to the hotel. I was angry person, angry bird, I just want to go. It's just like, somebody give me a break here. I was just in a book fair. Everything was fine. I never got corona. I was lucky. Thanks goodness. I can't be arrogant about it because it's horrible. It is horrible. It affected people, not just financially, emotionally. It took families away. It's just horrible. And I felt like it's so contradictory. Nothing makes sense here, and I felt I was in jail, as if I'm punished for something I haven't done. And I think all of these emotions and madness and things stored in all of this not writing because of the traveling and the stress and the guilt feeling toward my husband and my son, that I took my son with me and I went to this business trip, which ended up to stay for 4 months in Dubai. It was wonderful though for my son, but I mean the whole thing was not right to feel like you are having fun when everybody should be at home. Anyway, so I went into this hotel room, and all what I wanted was love. I wanted to feel the love that Corona took away from us. We can't hug each other anymore. We cannot hold hands. We cannot shake hands. We cannot express feelings. I see my sister. I can't go and jump on her and hug her because we will be in trouble, you know, and or a friend you haven't seen for years, especially living abroad. I cannot see my neighbor. I can't cook something and go and take it to my neighbor and say, hello, my name is Feda, I just moved here. So it was all the love I wanted to share with people, sharing my beautiful home with friends and families and things simple, most innocent things. I don't want to go to a pub and get drunk. I don't want to do any of these things. I'm just a simple person. I want to have a meal with friends. I want somebody to be able to come and have a play day with my son who's very lonely. I'm lonely. I'm a new person here. And this situation took all the love away from us. And that's why I think there were a romance twist to how I expressed the feeling and this story. And it started by writing letters to this mystery guy and describing what is happening here in this room, how we are treated, how we disappear as a human being and become 408. It was 408 for me and another number for somebody else. And your food comes in a bag, not a plate, not a tray, a bag. It's like from being in a hotel for business with a stunning swimming pool view from my window, which I could never access because I was from 10 till 11 in the book fair. And then when I had all the time in the world, I was locked in one room. I'm not allowed to do anything. So it was all of this dilemma that I think exploded in 408. And when I started writing, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I did not want to hear from any human being. I wanted to put all this craziness, anger, love, lust, everything. I wanted to put it in this book. And I think around the 5th day, my amazing friend and editor, she was sending me messages. She's knowing I'm writing, etc. I'm writing, but I'm just being quiet now. And I sent her a few chapters, a few paragraphs of what I'm writing, and I'm thinking, what do you think? She said, oh my goodness, this is amazing, don't stop. And I had somebody like this, and I had few friends, few trusted friends. One of them is with us here today and supporting me and attending this event, Lama. I remember I was writing to her, and sometimes she would worry, you're not doing that, are you? I said, oh, no, there's fiction in that. Don't worry. I am crazy and angry, but no, I am not going to do this. Don't worry. So it was this feeling that I was writing and they were my own audience, reading for me and saying, send me more. What's going to happen next? And that buzz that kept me going. And and I wrote my very first ever novella after a year and a half of struggling, accepting what's happening. And I think meeting Leonardo during the book fair, which this is the other where the journey came. I think before going to Leonardo and how I came here just to seal this journey, there were this now situation. How quick should we get this work out and market, right? Now, okay, why do I need to do this? And I know the criticism in the world I will be facing, and oh, nobody wants to hear about pandemic now. Give me a break. People are still soaking in it. I needed to do that for me. I needed to do that for Sunono. I had to take a step forward for the business, if that makes sense. I needed to go to the publishers conference. I applied again and I was like hoping I will be accepted to participate. And I needed to put something on the table. You know, I needed to say, well, in this year, this very hard year, we managed to do this, this, and this. One of the achievement was selling rights. I thought that's a great thing. Another achievement was showing that we have the capacity to handle an adult book. We've got this wonderful illustration done by Ruth Barros, who done the cover for us. And then we got these nice flappers. We thought, ooh, fancy. I can do something a bit cool here. I've got some really lovely reviews from my amazing, I'll call him teacher, because he was Wasin al-Araj. He was one of the novelists who taught us the creative writing course during the writers retreat. So see how things are all connected, right? They're all connected to this magical moment in Sharjah when I went to this small new initiative, and I'm shy, one step forward, one step backward, and thinking, oh, would I ever do it? So from that little candle that lit in my path, to taking more steps forward and forward, and finding yourself writing a novella and publish it and be brave and go for it, and then pitch it and meet with Leonardo during the publishers book fair, conference, and I pitched the book for him, and I pitched it also for a Persian publisher who's interested. So the Persian, Italian, Portuguese, these are all on the table, inshallah, we say, hopefully. So, and English, I've got myself an agent as well, so that's something fancy. I think it's just amazing to feel like you managed to do something at the end of this crazy thing that didn't end. Like even today, I'm hearing from my son's school, okay, we sent more books and more ways for you guys to do. In case there's another crisis, we can do school homeschooling and virtual learning and things like that. So it's still on. It still didn't end. And thank you for being so patient with me.
No, that was wonderful. You were the angry bird, right?
Thank you. I am still wearing red.
Sunono angry bird, right? There was Sunono angry bird. Of course, the bird was angry. It was trapped. Has to be free, right? Thank you, Feda, for this beautiful, beautiful speech. And I want to open now for questions. So Davina saying it was a great journey. Yeah, I agree. Davina is a professor at the Federal Institute of Education here in São Paulo, and she is devoted to education too. So she is one of us that has the education hat on the head, right, Davina? So. Well, first of all, I I'd like to ask if Leonardo wants to say some words. So it's open to you, Leonardo, if you want to say something to us and to Feda, please.
Oh, yes, but in a few moments because I'm driving. So maybe in 10 minutes I can come back
Okay,
and say a
no
little
problem
things.
at all.
Okay? Because
No
I'm
problem.
driving.
It's
Okay.
okay. Okay. Okay. So if anyone has a question, a comment, or anything, you are open to speak if you want. Okay. If you want, if you're shy to speak in English, you can also write the questions or comments on the chat, and I can translate them to Feda.
I have
Does
a
anyone?
question.
Who's speaking? Andreas. Yeah, now you can finally meet, right? Because
Yes, right?
you guys have been exchanging emails all the time.
Oh gosh, yeah. I
So,
just
Feda, this
realized
is
when I
Andrea.
saw the name.
This is Feda.
Nice to finally meet you, Feda. Thank you so much for being here with us. I actually have a question. This is not at all the questions I had planned, but when you were telling us about the book, you told us that the character writes letters, and then this word immediately got my attention because I'm just curious why letters, especially in a moment that we are all digital, and we were actually immersed and kind of drawing on all these digital tools. I just would like to know, why did you choose letters?
And this is a good question. I think when we say letters, we always vision a letter where it's more like messages, because you get a sense of the reading. She's not mailing these letters. She's not physically sending them. So she's either using social media or emails. You get the sense of how she's communicating. But at the end of the day, they are still letters, aren't they? But this is our own generation of sending these romantic letters with lots of emoji and size and with all this beauty of writing letters, although it doesn't feel as romantic maybe as receiving a physical letter and a lovely card, especially now during Christmas. My son had to do lots of card writing for his friends. Still, it's beautiful to receive a message with, I don't know, a voice message, a text message these days, a short video. If you, it's still sort of letters. But yeah, it never occurred to my mind that letters are just the letter. It's more maybe like messages and letters.
Yeah, but it's amazing because I think it has, I don't know, I think it has to do with the need of communication. Because even if you're alone, if you write a letter, in some way you have the person who you are writing the letter to, in front of you, right? You have to imagine this person in front of you. You have to imagine yourself talking to this person. So it's maybe it's something like to have the presence in absence, right? So you like build the bridge towards the other by writing, right? Because you're always imagining the other who's going to read these letters. And maybe because of that, I've got a question this morning. Andrea del Fuego. Andrea is one of the members of the book club. She's also a great writer. She's an awarded writer in Portuguese. She's published in many countries. I don't know now how many countries, maybe 9. She's a very, I think she's very important, a very important writer here in Brazil, and she's a member of our club. and she told me, I won't be able to be there in this meeting, but I have something that I wanted to ask to the writer, to Feda, if you can. And I think maybe the question that Andrea made is related to the question that the other Andrea just made, right? About the letters, because I think the thing is about communication, communicating feelings, expressing feelings, and having these feelings heard, read in some way, communicated in some way. And the question that she sent, she asked me to ask you, Feda, if you think that the pandemic and the quarantine had any impact on in regarding to the reading habits, if it changed the pandemic, they changed the reading habits, if people still read as they used to read before, because this is about communication too, right? You're writing, but you're writing to whom? To whom are you writing when you're in lockdown, where you cannot communicate as before, right? So is the reading the same reading as the reading habits, the same habits as before, do you think, too, or not? This is the question that Andrea.
I feel that there is two questions in that question, but I will start with the thing I find easy, and I think I can answer straightforward. With the pandemic, a lot of initiatives and a lot of book clubs and a lot of publishers start all to try to think outside the books, because people could not access libraries, and having the idea of second-hand book is now dangerous, to have books, physical books in hands. The delivering goods was tight, priority goes to food and things like that. So lots of people started changing their reading habits, maybe from a paperback book to ebook. So ebooks became more popular during the pandemic. Audiobooks as well. I am a fan of audiobooks since ever. I think my generation, we knew audiobooks in a different way. It wasn't called audiobooks then. We used to listen to cassette, the cassette at that time. We used to listen to poem, like I know Mutanabbi, a very famous poem. I still have his very best poem in cassette. So that's audiobook at the end of the day when you think about it. And because we listen to Quran as well, and Quran is full of stories, and you listen and you meant to listen and think of the wisdom. So we always been exposed to listening to an audiobook, but it wasn't called audiobook in a fancy way. It was like you listen to Quran. It is a book at the end of the day, and you listen to all of these things. So these became more popular. I think it just made people try this. I guess people thought they had more time on their hand during the pandemic. I don't know how. I think for me, I had less time during lockdown. Less time because we were all together at the same time. You need to cater for everybody. You have to put all the meals, and and you have the child, and the home responsibility become intense. So I envy these people who find more time during lockdown. Mashallah, like there must be super people. I was one of them. I also maybe think so there were people, if you live by yourself anyway, and you don't have to spend hours in traffic and transportation, maybe that offers you more time to read. I guess there were more reading, maybe in that point, people found it more to read, because you less going out and less doing things, and book clubs did really well. They were really great vibe in that encouraged people. When you read a book and then discuss it with somebody, then you want to communicate, you want to reach out, you want to offload all these ideas from your brain and see if somebody is with you on the same page. And sometimes you want somebody to help you changing your mind and see something different in the book. There were so many incidents where we would discuss a book and somebody have a strong point about that. It's a boring book. And then somebody else say, no, but did you feel that? Did you understand that part? And then you feel like, interesting. I didn't look at it that way. So book clubs did really, really a great role in encouraging people to read. There were also annoying people who keep saying, I read this book and I read that book on social media, and you feel like, I am struggling. I cannot read my emails. You know, it was this and that. It depends in which mood you are. So, but I do want to say definitely there were more reading, but there were definitely a flag for let's read. You know, it was there. Um, it was more toward, oh yeah, let's sit and read a book, because we're sitting on our butts doing nothing anyway. So maybe let's read a book. So
It's interesting because you were speaking about that, and I'm just here thinking that the book, the object, the book, and came the book as we know nowadays, right? Not the holy books like the Quran or the Torah or the Bible, but the book as a commercial object. Well, how can I say, a mass means of communication came to the Western world. More or less as a result of the individualism, right? Like being able to be alone in a place in relation to the book and with the story and reading, and then and you know that for reading in this way we have to be alone, right? We cannot read if we have lots of people beside us talking all the time, or as you said, when we have so many other things to do, it's difficult to be able to be available for reading, right? So the book, we could say, maybe we could say that is a result of the individualism, the code to the subjectivity, and so on and so forth. And obviously, after you read, you can share your reading experience with others. And so the book has these two sides: the side of the loneliness, the side of the sharing of experiences. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the pandemic for some can have provided this moment to be alone in contact with the stories, and then to exchange your experience of being alone with the books and back, right? So maybe, as you said, maybe the reading habits increased, I don't know, but it's interesting to think that even if we think this way, that the reading habits increase because people are more lonely, so they have more time for reading, and so on and so forth. In the book, there's always this desire for the other, to share the experience, to speak with others about what you read, and if you liked, if you're not. So the book is the two things together, the two sides of the same coin, right? So it has the the necessity to be lonely and the desire to be sharing the experience with others. So maybe we can think about the experience of reading during the pandemic and through these two sides, right? So maybe it's not just, as you said, it's just not just one question, not just one side of the question too, right? So let's see what's going to happen. Definitely our experience of the world will never be the same. I don't think so, right? Well, Davina wants to speak, wants to make a comment or a question. Please, Davina.
Hi, Feda.
Hi, Davina. I love your hairstyle. I have to say, your hairstyle and your glasses are so gorgeous.
That's the pandemic. Cut it off, stop painting.
Oh, that's lovely. See, there are good sides for the pandemic, although I hate to admit, but yeah.
First, I'd like to thank you very much for your participation here in our book club today. GENAM is very proud of our meetings, and you have added to our research group tonight as you joined us in this discussion. So we are very happy to have you here. It's a pleasure. I loved hearing from your experience on how you got here, you know, all the ways that brought you here. And I just loved when you said that you want what Corona has taken away from us, and you wanted the love that Corona has taken away from us. Thanks for reminding us that. It's very, very powerful for me, especially. I have a question that is a little off in another direction. I wanted to continue on your writing experience. As I was browsing to know a little more about you today, I noticed that you wrote solo, but you also has co-writings. Is that right?
Yeah.
So could you
tell me? I miss saying that. Yeah.
No. We wanted to know about your writing. It's okay. But for me, this experience of writing, shared writing, or I don't know, it's nice to know about it. So if you could share with us.
Awesome. Yeah, it's beautiful because there is a story behind the story, right? And I think that's the thrill about everything in life. It's always the story. I remember when I was starting this journey, I joined a group of authors shyly. I was in that group in WhatsApp. During that time, I was listening to how authors treat each other and how they make sometimes nasty comments on somebody else's work. And so it was interesting experience to be in that authors group. And I remember one of the authors in that group was talking about submitting her work. And either she was submitting her story to a magazine or she was submitting her story to an award or something like that. And the prize was that if she won the award, she will be published. And I remember she shared that story and I liked that story. And I thought, and that was the moment when I was thinking with my publisher's hat, that was the first time that, feeling that you can offer somebody something, somebody you believe in their work and you like it. So unlucky for her, she didn't get the award. Lucky for me, she didn't get it because then she texted me privately and she said, oh yeah, that didn't work. What do you think about it? And then I said, oh cool, I would really love to give it a go. So we worked on that, and my role in that first story, because then we carried on working together, was like more as an editor and a publisher, and that was her story, and it was a feather or a crown. That was the name of the story. And that wonderful, wonderful author is called Asma Armara. And the reason why I wanted to start with her story is this was on 2020. And since then, this lady won at least 3 prestigious awards. You know, Etisalat Award, the award any children's writer in Arabic country want to win. You know, it is one of the biggest trophies. So imagine from that little journey, we worked together, and she won these awards with Etisalat, and I feel so proud of her. So when she submitted that story, I'm just going to tell you very quickly what's that style and how we ended up co-writing together. It was a story about the peacock, and how the peacock got his beautiful feather and his lovely crown, why he's so distinctive from all the other birds. So there were a moral that he'd done something really awesome, and he was rewarded by this. I'm just trying not to put any spoilers for whoever gonna read this in the future. So I love the story, and I thought, you know what, let's do a series. Let's do collection based on that concept. Let's take other animals and do similar thing. So we did. After that, I think we planned, like brainstorm what animals we would write at. We don't want something very familiar, like something like dogs and cats are beautiful, but they like all over tuk-tuk and all over this place. So let's choose something else. I think I picked, at that time, I wanted the badger. I thought I admire that animal. And we picked some unusual animals, but then we ended up writing about hedgehog and the zebra. So why hedgehog has spikes, and why the zebra has black and white stripes. And I think the zebra story is one of my favorite. So we agreed on the animals, and then she brainstormed the concept, how like that, and then I like she put the bones and the skeleton, and then I put the flesh on. So that was, we haven't decided who's gonna do what, but it happened that way and it flew that way. She has the most creative mind in the world. She will come with the most beautiful ideas, funny, cool, child-friendly, and then I can, like, you know, just add a little bit to the plot here and there, and but she will put the skeleton. So maybe I can tell you the black or white was the zebra were 2 tribes, one black and one white. They never been stripes on them. And then one day they had a fight over the water source. They were drought and they ran out of water. So they decided they're gonna go separately look for water. And they went in a circle and ended up finding of water together at the same time. That was only enough for one tribe. So they decided, guys, khalas, we have to fight. Whoever wins will take the water. So the 2 leaders had 2 kids, the 2 different types. So they decided to trick their tribes when they are asleep, because next morning they will fight. So they put white stripes on the black ones and black stripes on the white one. And in the morning they woke up, they said, who's from which team? They couldn't recognize each other, so they decided not to fight. It is just beautiful, and I think there's lots of morals from it. And they're light, nice stories, and we really hope to carry on this series. So I think, yeah, and that was her idea, the twist, you know, the twist was her idea. It was brilliant. And then we built the story and added a few things. And it was beautiful because we became really best friends. We still are, and I'm so proud of her. And nobody ever was trying to push. It was flowing, you know. We'll do the ideas, then we do the draft, then I go and write her idea, and then she will go and say, oh, maybe you've exaggerated here, let's tune in but a little bit, and then the decision at the end for the editor. So we both nobody fights. The editor makes the decision, and it was lovely. It was really fun, really fun. You feel like where somebody complete you, you know. It was fun. And I did another work with another lady from Oman as well. She's a math teacher. And I was like, wow, yes, I would love to write something in math, you know, but make it like a literature story that does fit within the math. So she wrote this beautiful story about the zero and how he was suffering because he's zero, he's nothing. And we built the story into a way that, no, you are not nothing. You just need to be in your right place. If you try to run and how do you say, erase everybody, you will be in the wrong place. You will be on the left because you wanted to become better than the one, and you wanted to be better than the two. So you're always on the left. It's nothing. But when you go to the right place, then you make the one become 10 and the 2 become 20 and things like that. So it's built up beautifully. There were a moral in it, and there's a math to learn, and it was fun. It was really fun. So I think co-writing experience can be really enjoyable, and it can be a nightmare if you are with the wrong person. I think that will happen if you are working for a foundation where there's a boss who decides who's teaming with whom, and if the boss is not very clever, he will not pick the right people together. But when you pick each other, it's lovely. It's like marriage, I guess. You get to choose. But if your parents say you marry this one, I think, yeah, gonna be tough.
Thanks. I was really interested in this black and white book.
Oh,
So you
cool.
told me more about it. It's
I
really
have
cute.
Yeah, so this is the Arabic version. I'm not sure that. Yeah, so we have
Ah,
it. It's available in Arabic and in English, but this is the, yeah. It's simple story, and we did some simple illustration as well. But I think because it's simple and there's nice morals in it,
Wow.
thanks a lot.
it
Oh, that's so
cool,
beautiful.
cute, it's a small story.
And
It's a
for
very
the
small
record,
thing.
just for the record, writing for children is no less than writing for the grown-ups.
I know.
Of course not. Of course not.
Of course not.
Read
Yeah.
completely.
And it's a certain
Congratulations.
passion when I talk about children's books. Nobody can take that away from me. I mean,
Of course.
whether I succeeded and carried on writing for adults or not, I will never stop writing for children. I love both, but it is what it is. Sometimes, even when I was in school environment, if you're teaching the younger ones, you are in a certain category, as if you never went to school or studied, right? And when you teach high school and secondary, like you are promoted. It's
Yeah, the
funny.
status is different. Yeah, and this
There
is
are people who think
nonsense. Yeah.
that way, and I'm sure people are changing now, and there is more appreciation for authors who write for children and teachers who teach children. I feel sorry for the teachers who teach my son, because I know how much hard work kids can be when they're tired, but so yeah, it's crazy sometimes how people value your work, right?
And if we think about the publishing market, I think children's books lead the market. They own much they get much more money, the much more, they sell much more. They are the the leaders of the market. It's not that shy little thing. No, I don't agree. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else wanted to make a question? Leonardo, are you available already?
Yes, now I am.
Okay. Now he's not moving anymore.
Oh, so first of all, thank you, Feda, for being here, and thank you, Fabiana, Elio, Andrea, to enjoy the suggestion. It's really nice to think about something and realize it, see really happening. So I'm really glad that all this is happening here, the GENAM meeting. My asking about Fera is she decides to write about pandemic like all the authors of book club. But for an author, we decide to write or don't write about something. And these days, a reader asked me this: how you decide to write or not to write about something? Because you're a writer, you have many ideas, and some ideas you decide to put on the paper and keep going, and another's ideas you just throw away. So how you think you as a writer decide to write about this and don't write about that? What you think?
I
Oh, good
think
question. Ooh.
this is tricky question.
Wow.
You should have
Yes,
seen
for
me
you
Editor's
in the
all,
question.
because
card,
you're all writers.
so I can skip it. I think when I'm setting this question or asking this question to myself, and I know I'm in a position that I'm an author and I'm a publisher at the end of the day, and it's a very, very tricky position to be in, because sometimes you need to ask yourself, do you write just what you believe in and what you want to write, or do you write for the market as well? Because that is the killer. And most of the rejections, I think, authors get, not because they didn't get the right to write a good story. It's just because these publishers know their story will not sell because they have an agenda. What to write and what not to write, I think each author need to say to themselves, why I write? What is it that drives me to write? And I think this is where they find their path. You can decide to write, for example, for commercial purposes, and that doesn't make you any less writer or any more successful. It's some people master the craft. They know how to put on a psychological thriller and just gonna have all publishers all over them to buy their books, because they know this sells, people like it, it has a huge demand, and they know how to craft it, so they write it. Some authors write because they feel they want to pass something. They have a feeling that they need to spread a word or a message. Like when authors write about horrible law that happens in their own country that nobody heard about, they write that story because they want people to be aware of that story. They want to know that women in this place, they suffer from such and such. Men in that place have to suffer from such and such. So in these scenarios, I think it's your personal goal from writing. Publishers have other goals. There are agendas. Publishers have agendas, and they follow trends as well. So if there is a conflict in a certain country that we know that the market sympathize with this country, we will be open to receive work about it. So, and I see it happens in the markets, that when there's conflicts in Afghanistan, now everybody wants to write something about it. You know what I mean? And everybody wants to sing the song that makes certain places happy, and they know they will sell the book. Like, there were a time, and it did really make me annoyed. There were a time that if you write a book about an Arabic woman or an Arabic princess who's looked in her marriage, and her husband is torturing her, or how much she doesn't have freedom in the Arabic country, you will find this book translated, and Western people want to read it. And it was just like, khalas, guys, we do have good life and bad life as much as everybody else everywhere in the world. So, and the word books they just take some politic appeal for some people. They want to sing a certain song for certain governments and certain agendas. So, and I know authors who go and pick that and write it and get awarded and get published. And there are people who know how to write for a trend, and there are people who know how to write for a market. There are people who want to write an honest, true story. And I don't want to say it sadly enough, or believe it or not, the truth is that not always these honest stories get the publicity they deserve, or they reach out the way they should. There is luck as well in that, and there are I think tricks we need to learn if we want to pass a good book. And yeah, I think everybody needs to choose their own path, regardless of what all the mass crowd going to. And you need to be prepared. If you want to walk against the current, you have to be tough enough to do it, and it needs to worth it for you at least. Did I answer?
I think so.
Okay. And sorry, but one more.
Okay, Leonardo. Okay. I have mine too.
Like all here, we study, we read as Brazilian readers. We read as young adults the same things, like Machado de Assis, an important Brazilian writer, a little of English literature. What is the readings for Arabian writers? What you read when you was a teenager? What's the reference who made you as a writer?
As a teenager, I remember this is funny combination. As a child, I started reading and studying a Mahmoud Darwish poem. I don't know if you heard about him. Okay, and I even still have the book I memorized by heart. I was 10 when I memorized the poem in this book. Wow. And look how old it looks, right? So this poem, he's a Palestinian poem, do we say, about the writer, and poetry about the thing they write. Yeah, so he's Palestinian, and his very first book was about the struggle of Palestine and what they had to face. And because I'm the first child, and my father had, he was all full of freedom, we're gonna go back home, and he called me Feda. And Feda actually means to somebody to sacrifice, and you give your life to your country, or to the loved one, or to your family, or to your principle. So even my name came from that era, and that dream my dad had. So that's what I learned as a child. That's what I was reading and performing from this book. And then I used to read during the summer holiday. because we used to live in United Arab Emirates, and your chance to have a holiday was to travel back home, which home for us was Jordan, because my family migrated from Palestine to Jordan. So I'm a Jordanian and Palestinian. So not every holiday we could afford traveling to Jordan. So the holidays we spent at home, you have to read, because it's way too hot outside to go and play in the street. It's like 60 degrees something. So you will have a lot of time to sit and read. And there were a lot of entertainment at that time. So reading is your best reading. So I used to read the translated version, the child version of all the work of Shakespeare. So all the work of Shakespeare was translated, and I can't remember what publisher done that, but they did a great job. What they did, they made it in like a smaller volume, and like almost like a chapter book size, and in a language that appeal for young readers. So I remember I read them all in Arabic, and I never ever read them in English up to this day. But I remember them, they stuck in my head in Arabic because I read them. And from that, I moved to reading, we call them pocket books. I don't know if you guys have something, I'm sure you guys have that. And they were very boyish books. They were all about Mr. The Impossible Man. This is the name of the series, Araj al-Mustahil. And this Impossible Man, like James Bond, the Arab version. And how he was like in CIA, and he was like discovering all these crimes, and he's Egyptian, and he's like has all the superpowers. I used to read this. What else did I read as a child? All the girls read the romantic version of this. They were another love stories for girls. They never appealed to me, so I used to read these boys things. And whatever good book comes to us, but I don't remember a certain author as a teenager. Then when I grew up to start building my own taste at university, I read Leo Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Anton Chekhov, all these lots. I admired an Arabic writer called Zakaria Tamer. He is the master of the short stories. He has beautiful short stories. I have all his books. I read them all. I even, when I started writing my thesis for master, which I never finished, it was about studying similes in his writing, how he could describe something in a very short, simple way, but make it magical. Like I remember one sentence from his stories. He said, the policeman used his whistle, and he ordered the sun to rise. This, how powerful that, to show you the control of the government. The policeman whistled, so he ordered the sun to rise. So he had things beautiful like that, simple sentences, but very powerful and imaginary. To else, Najib Mahfoud, of course, everybody did Arab must have read. I read Najib Mahfoud, I read Ahsan Abdul Quddus. Saadallah Wannous. I read like all the Ghassan Kanafani. These are names of very pioneer and amazing authors. And of course, I read a lot of translated books recently. I enjoy reading in Arabic. I love audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks. I read in English audiobooks more than anything else. And I love to say I read audiobooks because I believe audiobooks are reading, because people don't have to read with their eyes. There are people reading with their ears and with their hands and so on. So reading is the access of that written thing in any format. So yeah, I hope any of these names ring a bell for for whoever is reading it.
Not all, but well, for sure. Yeah, this is amazing. You're a good reader. You were a good reader since we
I
were
were,
little.
yeah, I'm way much less now,
Yeah.
which is embarrassing, but yeah.
No, it wasn't. I was a crazy reader when I was a child too. Crazy. I read everything that fell into my hands. Everything. Yeah, super, super nice. Any other question from from the audience, from you guys? No? Ellie's not posing any question tonight? No, not a comment? Okay. So maybe I can say something too, right? Well, I had so many things to say, Feda, so many thoughts that came to my mind after reading the sample that you sent us, right? One of the things that, well, so many things. One of the things that came to my mind was about the people vision, you know, in the chapter that you sent us. There's the scene with this looking through the people, right? Inside the room, and somewhat it reminded me of Alice in Wonderland. You know, like this connection and contrast between what is outside, what is inside, what is big and what is small, what is at the reach of your hand and what is unreachable. So it's amazing how in this small sample that you sent us, it's very impressive how you deal with little details, little small things and small details and tiny little things that, like the people, open a whole world that is outside. So it gives us the sense of the how tiny we are in front of all this that is happening, and how big the world is and how we want to go out, how we want to get free, right? So I thought it was so nice the way you built this through little tiny details in your narrative, and I felt somewhat this childish, not in a bad way, but this child gaze in the gaze of the narrator, the narrator. You know, the way the woman that is trapped inside this hotel room sees things with curiosity and trying to understand what is behind the tiny little things. It's a kind of a childish gaze, but in a good sense, you know, this gaze of curiosity, this gaze of uh, from a person who wants to know more, to discover, to know what is behind things. So I thought it was brilliant. I think it was very interesting the way you build up this narrative, from this curious gaze towards the others, towards the world outside, towards what's happening, towards herself. It's very interesting and brilliant, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed to read it, and it's nice to realize that you can embed uh, your work, your thinking as a writer for children in this narrative, this big narrative for adults. You know, it's so amazing to be able to keep this this gaze. I think this is, and this is you. I think we can when we hear Feda, we see her. She's always, oh, okay. What can I do here? What can I see here? What's the new path that I can follow? It's amazing. It's I think it's from your personality, and it's just great. I praise that. Congratulations for that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That means the world to me, really does. And I think this support, it just gonna make me get better, if that makes sense. And way when you think, okay, I can try to get better, I can learn more, I can see where I could have done better. But when you feel like you have no hope at all, it's just when you surrender and quit. And people like you guys who gave me the opportunity are the reason why I didn't quit. Not yet.
Oh. No, you don't have to quit it. Don't do it. Never. You're amazing. And from that perspective, this perspective that comes from people, right? From someone that is trapped inside a hotel room and thinking about the people, I don't remember the word in English, you say you dedicate your book to your father, your uncle, and you have to to people who are in prison, you say, something like that.
Yes.
So this woman, this narrator, is also trapped. She's in a domestic prison because of the pandemic, right? So, and she's trying to communicate with the outside, to look towards the outside, even if it's through a people, right? If through this small hole, right? And my question for you is, if you think that the making up of stories, the creation of stories, can be considered a form of coping with imprisonment and a form of building up freedom.
You mean for this story, the 408? I think in this story, what I was trying to say or reach out for is that this prison that was within the pandemic, it's not just caused by the pandemic. It's an ongoing thing. There is an ongoing social prison where we are apart from each other. We're divided by differences in culture. We're divided by differences in beliefs. We are divided and isolated by distance. When we can't afford traveling, when we cannot afford a nice meal together, whether we cannot afford it financially or we cannot afford it because of the time or because of the commitment, we are facing this isolation. In this life, we kind of trapped into certain rules, whether created by us because we learned or thought this is the right way to do it. We have to work this much to achieve that much. So there is this much time for fun and this much time for quality time with family. And then suddenly there is all the time in the world with your family. And the last thing you want to do is being with your family. It's just this a craziness of not being able to choose, not being able to choose. I will leave work, jeopardize everything, and I will spend time with my family, and I will travel, and I will do this. I think when you become an adult, you start this present of responsibilities, you get trapped into what you need to do right and what you should not do because it's wrong. And then if you are in a relationship, then those grow more because you will think about you and your partner and your child if there's children. And so it's not just the pandemic. I think the pandemic is the exaggeration of the daily restrictions that we live, what you are allowed to think, what you are allowed to say, what is it appropriate for a woman to feel, what is it appropriate for a woman to express, falling in love with somebody or with a stranger. It just I think the pandemic just triggered things for me and in general when I was trying to say things. I also in other chapters they were talking about relationship under spouse visa. This term when you live in the UK, for example, but you are residents because you married to a British man or a woman, and how much does that create pressure on a relationship? Because it comes with it counting how many days you used of your visa outside the UK, and I think I felt that really magnified as big as this because I stuck for months in Dubai and that was not looking good for my visa. So all of these things that makes you feel like you're trapped by these rules. Now just Corona made it more obvious how much rules there are and how much you follow the country, the government, and how much the government became the parenting side of things. So you didn't tell the kids what to do. You have to give them choice, but the government tell everybody where to breathe and how to breathe. It's all of this. It's tough world we live in, and how much the media is controlled, the data is controlled. I was devastated when I was in the hotel. I was trying to Google a very local word in Emirati dialect. And because I was Googling it from the server that recognize my location in the UK, the choices they gave me, it was ridiculous. It gave me somebody who's a terrorist and somebody who killed, I don't know who, in Malaysia, and somebody. And when I was in UAE, I remember I Googled the name. I got all the right definition. It's a term in pearl diving and things like that. I was trying to Google gargur and I wanted to make sure that I got that term right. And I got Abu this and Abu that and all of these criminals, Arab criminals. And I was like, oh my goodness, because how much the data is controlled and these searching engines, which we think, oh, they're brilliant, just put it in Google and you find the answer. No, it's not. It depends on which part of the world you are, you will get the answers that customized for you. So it's crazy. And from one small incident like that, you feel how much you are controlled and how much hard work there is on these generations to be able to find the truth. How much they need to read to find the truth, how much they need to travel to find the truth, how much they need to communicate to find the truth, and use their brain at the end. It's tough. It's not just the corona. I think for me, it's all, when I said it was like an angry bird, I think it's brought
Yes.
too much.
Yeah, there's this Brazilian writer, Graciliano Ramos. He wrote a diary in prison. He was a political prisoner back in the 1930s. And in this book, he writes a phrase. He says, we start oppressed by the grammar and we finish oppressed by the police. But meanwhile, in the midway, we can move. And maybe I think the Feda's book and in her journey through literature shows us is that art is our way to move, right? Is our way to move among these bars, right? These traps and these bars. So we are reaching our time already. It's late there. I don't know if anyone has a final question, but if you don't have a final question, I would like to thank Feda a lot for being here with us tonight. I hope this conversation was as great to you as it was for us. And I hope you can come back every time you want and every time you can.
Thank you.
And thanks a lot. I really admire you a lot as a writer, as a publisher, as an entrepreneur, as a mother, and as a wife. This is amazing.
Really,
thank you very much for being here tonight.
I am so thankful. Really, really, thank you. I feel so honored.
And come back.
This is my biggest, thickest tick ever.
Oh no, you're going much further to the moon. Remember?
Thank you so much. Really, thank you.
Have a wonderful night. Happy holidays, everyone. If I don't see
you,
have
Same
a wonderful
to you.
2020.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Inshallah, wonderful 2022. Ameen, Ameen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye-bye.
And hopefully I will visit Brazil soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we can see each other in presence, hopefully, very soon.
Ameen.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.